So Todd, my name is Jeff Mann. I'm the territory manager with Aruba Networks. And I apologize. I have my puppy here who has been sleeping until about 30 seconds ago. So I'm going to have to go let her out in a second. Just wanted to thank you for joining. And I guess, to what Mike said, if you want to join live, you're welcome to, or if you just want to listen in and I'll monitor the chat in case you have any questions. And we can keep this somewhat informal. I think, Jason, you kept it to about 20, 30 minutes, and then the rest of the time would be for questions.
Yep.
So, okay. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Great. All right. So, Todd, again, welcome. My name is Jason Cody. I'm a senior systems engineer for Aruba Networks. I cover Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire. I'm based out of Goffstown, New Hampshire, so I'm a relatively close resource for our Aruba customers out here. Love coming out to Vermont and doing stuff, for customers out there. So what we are going to do today is talk about how we can leverage your wireless network to support your remote learners. So when we, for Aruba, we kind of look at the, back in March, right? We were looking at a 3-phase journey to basically bring us back to the reimagined workplace, or the reimagined school environment. And we saw it as a 3-phase journey. So the first phase was, everybody is just not in the office anymore. Not in schools. We had to, quickly come up with solutions, and sometimes they were patchwork, just to make it to work. But the goal of it was continuity for education, right? We wanted to be able to continue providing student services so that they would have have their education. Was it going to be, just like it was when they were sitting in the classroom? Well, that was the intent, and I think. My wife is a teacher, so I think on the whole, we did a pretty good job of having our communities bring education to students. So the second phase that we saw was, now, okay, we have to return to school, right? And the key point there is going to be health and safety. So the second part of this discussion that we have focuses on things like location tracking and contact tracing. The idea being that you already have an infrastructure in place when you're using your networking equipment, especially if you're using Aruba equipment. We have Bluetooth radios and wireless radios to help deal with things like location tracing and those kind of things. Phase 3 now is, all right, we've gone through continuity, we've gone through coming back, but now we may have situations where COVID is spiking again, so we're going to be closing schools and going back to phase 1 with remote work. But now we've got some experience behind our belt, so we can come up with some new ways to deal with this. And oh, by the way, we can also take what we learned back from phase 1 and apply it to things that we used to have to deal with, like snow days. Now we can switch to a remote model for those snow days, and students can still continue remote learning. So, we want to be able to take all of that information and still be able to use it going forward. So, in order to be able to do the whole remote access thing, there were 3 keys that we wanted to focus on, right? The first one was security and privacy. Everything that we needed to be able to do has to be encrypted. And we need to have those security controls in place that are doing the encryption and the trust and the logins and whatnot, with as little touch as possible. We look at the zero trust security model for these remote sites that are trying to connect, whether it be another building or a student's home or a staff home, that kind of thing. And we also need to be able to have VDI support for virtual desktops and access to local resources. The second thing that was a requirement for remote access was performance and management. So the biggest thing that a lot of students and staff and faculty kind of forget when they're in the building is that, in a building, we have an enterprise grade network. We have full control over the bandwidth. We have full control over how things are connected within the school. As soon as we go outside of that, now we're the IT department for everybody, whether it be in school or at home. So being able to centralize the management of the IT side of things, to be able to troubleshoot and monitor from a central point, was critical to be able to do that. Um, the idea of being able to use cloud management for leveraging um, work from anywhere for your IT department, because a lot of us were forced to leave the building as well. So we needed to be able to manage this stuff from the cloud, as well as supporting end users. And I remember back when I was an IT director, it was a lot of fun to be able to support laptops and desktops and overhead projectors and phones and everything in the building. And now all of a sudden we have to send Chromebooks home, and students need to connect to the network, and they don't know how to do that. And right, so these are all things that we needed to be able to manage, right? And that falls under user experience. So we wanted to be able to make sure that we could provision devices and provision connections with as little touch as possible. The experience that we needed to shoot for was the in-school experience and in-school connectivity, even though we may not be able to do that in a student's home. And then finally, we needed to be able to provide a way for, especially for staff and faculty, to be able to access local resources that were in the building that may not be on a cloud platform like Google Classroom or PowerSchool or any of those kind of things. Or perhaps you use PowerSchool locally, and teachers had to be able to get online to the local network to be able to work on that. So we took a look at that and we said, well, okay, how are we going to enable secure work from home? And the answer is that we were already set up for this to begin with. We worked with local user accounts or local VPNs, right? So the virtual internet access is our VIA client. That's the Aruba VPN. So a single worker could have a piece of software working on a phone or a laptop, a Chromebook, whatever, to create a VPN secure connection from their endpoint, wherever they are, to the local network and be able to work, right? Easy to install. It allowed us to be able to access corporate resources and enforce security policy, and it helped with scale. The second thing that we have in Aruba is that any of our access points, and it doesn't matter if they're the ones that are up in the ceiling or these specialty ones right here that have little stands and switches built into them, but we have the ability to turn any Aruba access point into a remote access point. And what does that do? Well, the idea behind this is that we create a secure tunnel from a user endpoint location, okay, and we recreate the corporate environment there. So if you're broadcasting Vermont School District at your school, your Chromebooks are all configured for Vermont School District. The idea is a student wouldn't have to go take their Chromebook home and try to figure out how to connect to, mommy, dad's, security van network or those kind of things, right? You may have to loosen security on your Chromebooks to be able to allow them to do that in the first place. The idea behind this is that you can send a remote access point home, tell them to plug the port 4 or this one here all the way on the right. You plug that into your internet, that's it. And what happens is now we can apply security policy to the ports and the traffic that are on that network. We're using an IPsec tunnel to tunnel the traffic back to your network. And then that's it. Our broadcast of the SSID is now Vermont School District at home. So the Chromebook doesn't need to be reconfigured because the network is there. And we could define specific security rights on those networks to be able to handle that from a central location. So this is giving us all of these options. It's easily installed and allows for remote connectivity. We recreate the corporate or the school environment. I should change the slide, but recreate the school environment at the local place. The security policies of the districts can be enforced. We can do that at scale, and we can manage it from one location. The other added bonus of this particular option is with the stand-up access point here, like I said, it's got a built-in switch. So we can actually support a PoE device. So for administrators, you can send a wrap home with their laptop, the way it's configured for school, and for example, a VoIP phone. You tell them to plug the VoIP phone into the first port, their internet into the last port, and we can tunnel that specific traffic from the VoIP phone. If it's voice VLAN 57, we can reproduce voice VLAN 57 for that particular device, and now they're able to connect to the phone system. So they're recreating their workspace at home. And then finally, the last choice that we have is, and again, all of our access points can do this, is an Aruba Instant VPN or IAP VPN. The idea behind this is we take the idea that we had with the remote access points, but now we do that for a building. So we can put multiple access points in a building without a controller and actually tunnel the traffic back to the main school district building, and recreate and basically extend that network. So the idea behind this is that let's say you have a temporary educational area, and you have a Comcast connection there. Well, we can deploy some of these IAPs in that location, create a VPN tunnel from that IAP controller to your main school district, and now your network over at the other school is set up, and it becomes that easy. So again, it's easy to install, centralizes that management, and allows for security policy that we have in the local district. This is kind of just a different look on the management side of this, is that we can take all three of the options, whether it's a via client, a remote access point, or instant AP setup, and use a cloud-based management system or an on-premise gateway to be able to control that. Our cloud-based system is called Aruba Central. It is an overlay, so unlike some other options out there, with our system, if you lose access to the cloud, it doesn't knock your local settings out. Everything that we have will still continue to function 100% just the way it would as if it was sitting in your local office. And that's because that's where all the config runs, is locally. And then finally, one other add-in, and we're starting to see this a lot in K-12, is the idea of taking a consistent access policy and applying it with network access controls. And our product that we do that with is Aruba ClearPass. But the idea in this is now this automates your entire network. So we're going to profile users and profile devices that come in, and it doesn't matter whether it's on a local network, local to the school, or if it's at a remote location, so an instant VPN or a wrap or via client. We're still going to take a look at those devices and apply specific security policies to make sure that we can secure the school experience. So again, here's the overall secure experience, but we have wireless access to the remote access point, a wired desktop, a VoIP phone, or a printer connecting to that remote access point. It hits the Comcast router or consolidated router or whatever internet service provider you have. And oh, by the way, if you needed to use a cellular service like an LTE connection, wraps have the ability to plug a USB LTE connection in, so we can use that for internet access as well. We're going to create an IPsec tunnel through the internet to whatever media you're using for that internet access. The IPsec tunnel goes into your school intranet. We can use ClearPass to secure this automatically, or we can have manual security policy here. The management side of this is either on-prem or cloud-based, but this is going to provide connectivity into your virtual clusters or your VoIP servers or your local servers, any of that stuff. Every user and every device would follow specific security policies and only get the access that they're supposed to have, with IT being able to fully see what's there, monitor what's going on, and report and troubleshoot on it as needed. This is the idea of, we had a lot of universities say this, so we just changed it to major university. But realistically, because the Aruba access points, any of them can be used as a wrap. You know, if you have access points in your school, for example, you don't necessarily have to wait or order more, right? You can take the APs that you have, re-provision them, repurpose them, and use them as a remote access point. But, you know, again, the ability to use a Wi-Fi 6 with a built-in switch or that kind of thing within your home is really the ease of use for these devices. So the last thing that I want to bring up is that when we talk about remote learning, you know, all of this stuff that we talked about so far is great for those people who have the luxury of having internet at home. But let's face it, a lot of communities in Vermont and Maine and New Hampshire may not have the luxury of having internet access at the home. So we can use some options here to allow for access, again, taking that idea of security within the network and being able to say, okay, well, we can place access points that are designed to be outside to cover our parking lots so that we can provide internet access to, you know, to people in our communities in the parking lots. And again, we can do that with security, so we can leverage things like Google Directory or Active Directory for people who have general access to your network, or we can do things like guest networks and cloud captive portals to be able to allow community access to the resource that's there. As I said, we have a whole specialized portfolio of outdoor Wi-Fi 6 access points. We still have some Wi-Fi 5 access points too. That's the AC Wave 2. They come as a built-in unit, so the omnidirectional or the directional antennas are integrated into this one unit, so there's no extra pieces that you have to install and set up and aim and that kind of thing. It's all built in. And we also have, and again, these guys are designed to be outside in New England too. So our snow and our cold and what we were dealing with last night, I'm not sure if it was ice, slush, or snow that came down, but we're able to just put this out there, and it's built to be outside. We do have this one specialized AP out here too, the 387. And what's cool about this one is that if you have a remote location that needs a higher speed connection, a lot of times the idea is, you know, if you're going to put a tent out in a football field or a track, and you don't have, you know, fiber out to that press box without having to dig up the field, which everybody would love to do. But you need to be able to stream out there, or you need to be able to provide internet out there. The 387 can actually provide point-to-point mesh with the scale. So in terms of aiming and whatnot, you have roughly the size of a 30-story building to get your aim correct. But with that device, we can do an aggregated almost 4 gig connection between 2 points up to 400 meters. So, you know, if you look at high-speed streaming or the ability to get fiber-like speeds out at a field, we can do that with this 387. So with that, we want to thank you. That's, you know, the core of the main presentation. I'm going to bring up my little, where's the, there it is, the camera, so I can see what's going on. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Or I see you there, Todd. Hi, how are you? You're on mute. Yeah. Oh, there you are.
Yep, good. Thank you very much. I'm not sure I have a lot of questions for you. That was great. I'm not super familiar with the Aruba line, so that is certainly helpful.
What are you using at your school now?
Well, all the internal is all HP stuff, so
Oh, okay.
Just haven't updated recently, but
Gotcha. So it's the old MSM wireless?
our wireless is all no. Oh, sorry. So that all the switching. The wireless is all Arrow Hive and recent endeavor into Extreme. Still undecided about that, but it is what it was.
Yeah. So there's a lot of differences between the way that Extreme and Arrow Hive their stuff works, as you are probably starting to figure out. You know, it's difficult, right? When Extreme has got a great reach and they've got a very large portfolio. It's a matter of having their support people having to work with 4 or 5 different operating systems, which is always fun. We're actually actively consolidating ours. So you said you're using HP networking, so for switches and stuff.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Okay, so if you happen to have ProCurve 2920s,
that's what we got.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so on the 2920, if you update that to the latest code base, it's actually running Aruba OS. Okay. So you do have Aruba switches.
Cool.
And what's cool about that is with our system, as I mentioned in the presentation, with Central, we use that as kind of an overlay for the management side. But what we can do is actually use that on our switching as well. So your 2920 switches can be managed from the same place that your wireless would be run from. So that allows things like I was talking about security policy and assigning, specific security for specific devices. We can actually share that between switching and wireless with the same role. So if you have a student role, we can use that on the switching or the wireless. So it's kind of a great way to kind of pull it all together. We're happy to, if you had some time and you wanted to talk to us a little bit more about the wireless, Jeff and I are happy to set up a meeting. You can take a look at it, try it out if you want. We can give you a detailed presentation on that if you like.
Yeah, we're probably a little bit down the road from replacing it, but definitely on the radar of the switch we'd probably like to make in the future.
Cool. One other thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Todd, what district are you from?
We're Blue Mountain. I think small K to 12. I think we've worked with you before, Jeff.
Yes. Yep. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I remember. Great. It's Friday afternoon. Sorry. So my brain's kind of fried.
Yeah. One other thing too. So we were kind of talking about this after the presentation yesterday too. With CARES Act funding and stuff, a lot of the outdoor things that I was talking about with those outdoor APs, we can actually work with, you have Arrow Hive now, we can still work within that. So you could have the Aruba APs out there to service the outdoor stuff, and we would make it work with the Extreme stuff inside. It would still be managed separately, but we could, make it all talk to each other.
Right. That's actually what we just installed was all Extreme stuff outdoors. We're all the original Arrow Hive indoors. So
Gotcha.
See how it goes.
Sure. Awesome. I saw Andre sneak in. Hi, Andre.
And everyone else, how's it going?
Good.
Good job as always.
Oh, thanks. We decided to do an open talk session because let's face it, it's 4 o'clock on a Friday.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants to learn anymore today. So
get stuff anymore in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Looks like Jason, we have Jim just joined with a question about outdoor Wi-Fi. So Jim, you're welcome to join the video chat here. I'll type our contact information in here if you want to reach out to us separately. Oh, Jason beat me to it.
Jason, you're quick on the draw.
I type faster than Jeff does.
He wants my job. He wants to be the sales guy and the engineer, apparently. So
No. I've done
Yeah.
that already. So Jim, the outdoor stuff is very easy to add. I was kind of mentioning it to Todd, so I'm not sure what your school may have for wireless or wired inside now, but we can make it pretty much work with anything. That's one of the hallmarks of Aruba is that we work, we work well with everyone. So.
And if you need help with the design and figuring out where to place things and coverage, we're happy to help you with that.
Our primary group that we work with is K-12, so we have a lot of experience designing K-12 networks. So, cool.
Great.
And just to, if I may, just for one second, I'm with E Plus Technology, and we're one of Aruba's partners. We're a solutions provider, but we do these Aruba installations for K-12 organizations in our sleep. Been doing them for years, work really well with Jeff and Jason to help design and install and implement these systems, whether it's indoor or outdoor. And then we've been doing E-rate. We're actually one of the top 10 technology providers for E-rate across the country. So a lot of stuff going on with CARES and HEROES Act right now, but E-rate is sort of right around the corner too. So hopefully everyone's at least starting to think about that. Just wanted to plug E Plus real quick. Thank you.
Jason, I have a
No
question.
problem.
Sure.
What do you think about controller versus controllerless designs?
Oh, that's a great question. So I would say that there's no such thing as controllerless. How's
There you
that?
go.
So right there, realistically, there has to be something somewhere that tells the system what to do. And guess what? It's a controller. In Aruba's world, we do two different. Jim, I'll answer your question, your statement there in just a second. I just want to finish with Mike here. We offer both on-premise controller and virtual controllers.
Cloud-based
And
ones, yeah.
well, and it's cloud-based, but we also split that into local or true cloud. And the difference between us and everybody else is that if your internet access goes down with just about everybody else, you're going to lose functionality, if not the whole ability to manage your network. With our stuff, that doesn't happen. Our cloud is an overlay. So we use it to tie everything together to manage it. So if we have different schools, for example, our Aruba Central will let you manage it, control it from one spot. But if you lose that internet access, or down the road, hey guys, Aruba, thanks a lot, but we're not going to continue with your cloud, your stuff still needs to work. And with us, it's just a matter of saying, okay, and the cloud goes away, and all of your configuration and everything runs locally. I think we're getting closer to a point where cloud controllers are on par or almost on par with being able to scale to the size of hardware-based controllers. A lot of it's going to depend on whether you want it run in the cloud or you want it run locally, and that the ability.
I know for many years that the issue with why people went with Aerohive, for example, over Aruba or other choices was because they didn't want that investment where they had 20 devices and then found out they had to spend another $20,000 to upgrade their controller and all the things that went with it. So
yeah, that was one of the things that Aerohive tried to do. The interesting thing about that, because so before I was with Aruba, I was an IT director in K-12 in New Hampshire. We ran into several occasions where it was great that Aerohive let you use different versions of code, but it almost got to the point where you would have, if you had really old stuff, you may end up with 3 or 4 different controllers because there's 3 or 4 different levels of code, and you couldn't traverse because there was limitations, right? And that was one of the changes that we made. I would say I've been with Aruba almost 5 years now. When I came aboard, and I'll be blunt, our cloud-based stuff sucked. I would have rather stayed with controller base because it was a proven way of making it work, and it did remain secure. In the last 5 years, we have made an incredible change in the way that that we do our instant and our cloud-based stuff. I almost, not quite, but I almost prefer that to the controller base. I'm still a healthcare background, so I like on-premise stuff. But for K-12, our instant central solution is secure, it's simple, and it's smart.
Yeah, and I think
I do know it's simple and smart.
Yeah, and honestly, I like just taking the state of Vermont and K-12. I mean, we do have some customers running controllers, but I don't think there's a district large enough that, I mean, I think Central would work with pretty much every district in the state. To Jason's point, it just boils down to a preference thing. There's.
Well, I'm the one who turned around and introduced Aerohive to Vermont in the first place. So if you want to throw something, you can probably blame me for it. But it's because I had a number of clients who came in and said, we've run it, Burlington School District being one of them. We've done all this stuff with controllers, and then we turn around, we want to add one more, and we have to spend $40,000 just to be able to put the next access point in. We don't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
So
No,
that was part of the reason.
Yep. And the Aruba's start was really with large higher ed and corporate. It really, but the model that we have, I think, works well. And the fact now that we can scale it down to a K-12 that it's the proper size for New England K-12 is really, really big change. And it's for the better too, because we're using the same ideas that we use in the corporate world in terms of security and whatnot. We're making that available to K-12. So
yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, that was just thought I'd be interested to see how you guys answered that.
No, I love those kind of questions. I'll have those conversations all day long. So, all right. So Jim, to answer your question, depending on your network and the configuration, part of this issue is getting sound from our PreSonus board. Okay, so if the PreSonus board, and I'll admit I'm not familiar with that, but if it is a network-based solution, then if your network is configured to allow the sound to transfer, then it's just a matter of routing on the network. We can certainly take any type of video streams and whatnot and set up a network so that it would be able to do things like stream into the sports field. And a lot of times, I was kind of talking about this earlier. If you have a track and a football field in the middle, but there's no fiber runs to it, that is generally cost prohibitive to try to run a network across that. So we would have a solution to be able to use wireless to create a mesh that would have speed that would be pretty close to fiber level speeds. So we can do 3.8 gig aggregate. Yeah. So that's kind of a good replacement for fiber. And we'd certainly have schools that have run graduations off of our networks at that setup. Hey, you guys had some cool stuff today. These are some good questions. Oh, we'd love to talk to them. Absolutely. I'm from New Hampshire. I'll talk to anybody.
Any more questions?
Awesome. Well,
Gentlemen.
I'm gonna
Great.
go back
Well-
to the Aruba booth and hang out there. If anybody wants to come join us and just talk networking, we're there. Oh, my dog showed up. There we go. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
And
Don't
enjoy
forget
your weekend.
don't
And
forget- Don't forget to
Yeah.
fill out a form too, guys, please, an evaluation. And thank you very much.
Good job, guys.
all right.